In this lesson, we're going to take a look at route middleware. Route middleware are run every time before navigating to a specific route. So when we click on a link, a Nuxt link, and when we do any routing in the app, this route middleware is going to be run first. This gives us an opportunity to check some things about the app or the route and to block that navigation from happening, to redirect somewhere else, or to let it happen and not interfere with it at all. Now, this route middleware is distinct from server middleware, which runs inside of Nitro and not on the view portion of your app. Server middleware is run on every single request and is more for things like adding information onto the request object. So in my mind, route middleware is a lot more useful and has a lot more use cases, and you'll probably end up using it more than you will server middleware. But with route middleware, because it's run every single time we change the route in our app, it's run on the server side as well as on the client side. Okay, so let's get into actually writing some middleware. So in the previous chapter, we wrote this validate method here that checks to see if the route that we're going to is even a valid route. This validate is syntactic sugar over top of a route middleware. But when you use validate, you cannot use any other route middleware. And this will become a problem for us because we want to add in authentication, which will use route middleware. So we're going to refactor this into a plain, regular route middleware. We use this middleware key, and as we see this pop up here, for the type of the middleware, we see that we can add in a string, a navigation guard, which is a method, or an array of string and navigation guards. So we just have one function here, so we're going to just put in that function. We'll make sure to destructure our params off of the route that we're going to. And instead of returning the error directly, we need to wrap it in the abort navigation method. And we'll do that for this other error here as well. And lastly, we just need to remove this return true. If everything works out and we're going to a valid route, we don't need to return anything. Now that we've finished refactoring our validate method into a route middleware, let's test it and make sure that it works. So I'll type in some random route up here. And because we put in a lesson that did not exist, we get lesson not found, exactly as we did before with our validate method. And let me test it with the chapter as well. Chapter not found. Perfect. So our route middleware is working as we expect it to. So let's take a second to look into what route middleware are actually doing. So they do have a specific format that we need to follow. We get a route that we're going to, and then we get a route that we're coming from. This is useful to do different validation in different circumstances. And then we need to return one of three things, or we need to do one of three things. Either we do nothing, and we let the route navigation proceed as normal, or we return navigate to and do a redirect, or third, we can return this abort navigation method with an error, which will stop the navigation altogether. In our middleware here, we check to see if the chapter and the lesson exist. And if they don't, we return an error with abort navigation. And if it all looks good, we do nothing. There's no return here. We just let it happen. In this middleware, we're not doing any redirects because we don't need to. So those are the three things that you can do inside of a route middleware. In the next lesson, we're going to create our login page, and then from there, we'll be able to combine this route middleware and authentication with Supabase to lock down specific parts of our application.